Are you suffering from digestive drama, bloating, farting, diarrhea, constipation, heartburn? You went to gastroenterologist, you went to see your GP, they ran all the tests and said you are within the norm. But you know that something is not quite right. You maybe tried low FODMAP diet, you avoided carbohydrates, you avoided fruit, but the issue is still there. Maybe you went through several courses of antibiotics and no success. You are thinking about a comprehensive functional medicine stool test. So let me show you what is it about, and I will give you also some case studies of what I have discovered recently with one of my clients, and maybe I will share even some tips and tricks of what helped her. I order stool tests for my clients from different companies. This one is from Genova Diagnostics, and right away you can see on the first page what needs attention. So we are looking first at the maldigestion. So maldigestion, it's in the upper part of the digestive tract. Usually it's the stomach, pancreas, liver, how you are breaking down the food. We are looking at pancreatic elastase, which is the enzyme that helps down to break down the food, products of protein breakdown, and fat. So if you are eliminating in your stool fat and undigested protein, we know it's in the upper part and it's feeding bacteria, potentially pathogenic bacteria that might overgrowth. And right away, they tell you what can help for this issue. Then we are looking at inflammation. So in this case, you can see increased secretory immunoglobulin A. So immunoglobulin, it's the police of the body, and it's obviously fighting something. At this point, we still don't know what. Then we are looking at calprotectin, which is usually inflammatory marker, very often seen in ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Then we have eosinophilic protein X. This is for food allergies, when it's the real allergies, but also parasites and occult blood obviously could be a sign of damage, potentially cancer. Then we are looking at dysbiosis. So dysbiosis, it's when the commensal bacteria or pathogenic bacteria get out of the balance, and we are looking at different species. And we are also looking at the methane score. So methane is the stinky gas. So if you have really silent but violent stinky farts, it might be because you are not digesting protein, or it might be because of some of these pathogenic species took over. And we are looking at yeast like Candida, that can overgrow as well. And again, you would see what in that instance we would do as a protocols. And metabolic imbalance, if you don't have, as it's for example in this case, enough short chain fatty acids. So short chain fatty acids are byproducts of a good bacteria that can cross the barrier and even feed and give energy to the brain, and it feeds also these enterocytes, so the cells in the intestine. And then we are looking at beta glucuronidase. This one we don't want to be high because beta glucuronidase is basically enzyme that breaks down toxins and, for example, estrogen or hormones that were prepared for elimination, and it recirculates them. So acts again, and it can be a cause, might be a cause of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, gut cancer. So we really need to always pay attention. And here, for example, if somebody had already high beta glucuronidase and were at the risk of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and so on, they recommend, for example, calcium D-glucarate, which I ordered from iHair because I haven't found any European company where to buy it, and then some other recommendations. And infection, obviously this is parasites or pathogenic bacteria. And then in this test, this is like 17 pages, you would also get test, because in a Petri dish, they are testing to which antibiotics it would be resistant. Yeah, so you would have this information, but then it also tests the antimicrobial herbs which would kill this pathogen or parasite. So you get a full information of what would work for you and what wouldn't. So I really like it. But today I want to also show you another test, and this one is from Nordic Laboratories. And for my client, who actually has amenorrhea, basically means that for years she doesn't have menstrual cycle. And even though we run hormonal tests and blood tests, we didn't really find anything that could be potentially leading to that. So she was thinking maybe it's because I'm over exercising, and she slowed down and she's doing only yoga and Pilates and only going for a walk. We looked at the stress levels, and we were thinking or we were like supporting the adrenal glands. But then she decided to do the stool test because she also had like vaginal itching, urinary tract infections after having sex with her partner, and because she wants to get pregnant. Um, this was a good idea. And you can see that we found this E. coli. So E. coli is this bacteria that very often causes urinary tract infections. And she had really high levels. And we also discovered that she has little bit increased Helicobacter pylori. She has done other tests. She has done the breast test, which was positive as well. And she has done the blood test for antibodies, which was positive as well. So we did not conclude only on one marker, which actually did not show high in the stool. But the breast test was high, and we knew that we need to do something. She didn't want to do the antibiotic and the triple medicament treatment. So we decided to try the functional medicine protocol. And we could also see that she has increased levels of Enterobacter, and she has very low levels of Akkermansia, which is very necessary for a healthy microbiota. We found many other opportunistic bacteria that overgrow, for example, Morganella, or you can see Streptococcus species, as well as Enterobacter. The good news was that she didn't have any Candida. Actually, the Candida did not show here, but we have done also urinary test, and Candida showed in the urine, so not in the stool, but in the urine. And then, of course, we do the protocol. For every client, I always summarize for them what was elevated, what it can be causing in their case. So here, this vaginal itching, and then, of course, what we are going to do about it. So which food and what will be the protocol. And maybe just to remind you, in functional medicine, we are looking, this is called dig in. We are looking at the digestion and absorption, because even though you are eating a healthy diet that you show me in the pictures, the question always is, can you digest it and absorb all the nutrients? So protein, fat, and fiber is the micronutrients, and carbohydrates as well. And then we have micronutrients, so it's vitamins and minerals. So for example, for this client that I showed you, even though she was eating tip-top healthy food, when we did the metabolomics test, it's a urinary test, and you can see the video, she was deficient in everything. Why? Because the H. pylori or some pathogens change in the stomach the acidic environment to alkaline, because it doesn't like to be in this hydrochloric acid. But hydrochloric acid we need for killing the pathogens and also breaking down the food, because then the pancreas will also release digestive enzymes. So this client had undigested food, and she did not absorb anything, and therefore she was missing the key minerals, for example, for thyroid. She has also hypothyroidism. So, for example, selenium, zinc, iron. She was missing all the B vitamins for the detoxification and so on. And so digestion and absorption is the step number one. That's what I always need to see. And then we are looking at intestinal permeability. So in the first test that I showed you, there is a marker of intestinal permeability, zonulin, which we immediately know, and there are other markers. We are looking at gut microbiota and dysbiosis. That's what I showed you in both of those tests, and seeing which bacteria overgrow and how we can put it under control. And then inflammation. So I showed you in the previous test secretory immunoglobulin A, or we have there calprotectin, and we have there many other markers that will show what is the root cause of the inflammation and how involved is the immune system. Because remember, this all works together. If your body is in a state of fight or flight, which is the inflammation running away from the tiger, it has also impact on the nervous system. And then we, in functional medicine, have this 5R protocol. So remove, replace, repopulate, repair, and rebalance. And that depends on what we have found in your stool test. So it is not trial and error. I'm also a nutritionist. And of course, if somebody cannot invest into these cutting edge functional medicine tests, we are applying everything that I know, but I still recommend knowing your starting point, knowing what you are trying to remove, replace, and repopulate. And then you can check 3 to 6 months later if everything has been cleared out. And so I absolutely love functional medicine because it's looking at everything and it tells you how to evaluate it. And we have, pages and pages of pages of protocol. So if you are interested in running a stool test, you also need to watch the video of how to prepare for the stool test or how to prepare for urinary test, what you can eat, what you have to avoid 4 weeks before you do the test, because these tests are definitely not cheap. You pay usually around 400, 500 Swiss francs or euro. And if you make these mistakes, like taking probiotics or eating certain food, it's going to completely impact the results and you wasted your money. So please watch these videos or talk to a functional medicine practitioner or nutritionist who is going to give you this information before you even spend the money.